Hey 302, it's Jackie Ferris. Well, it started out as a way to stay busy during a pandemic and quickly transitioned into a tribute to those on the front line. Today, we're going to be talking to artist Teresa Walton about pandemic paintings. It's a show that will inspire you, so stay tuned. The 302 is headed your way. Hey 302, I'm Jackie Ferris. You've heard the saying, from adversity comes great strength and beauty. Well, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. I'm joined by artist Teresa Walton, who has created this amazing collection of portraits called Pandemic Portraits, an exhibition in watercolors. Teresa, or Terry, as you go by, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm very happy to join you, Jackie. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, you are an art teacher who, like the rest of us, has been spending a lot of time at home, and that was the genesis for this exhibition. Is that right?
That's correct. When I knew that I was going to be home, I thought, I don't want to just eat all the time. And I haven't disciplined myself to paint every day. So I said, this is what I'm going to do with this time. And so I began painting every day.
Now, that painting every day turned into kind of, I don't want to say kismet, but your idea, your creative, the sense of wanting to help and wanting to paint your soul, sort of, as it were. Tell us how you got connected with just putting your emotions into the pandemic.
Well, what happened is my future daughter-in-law, Dawn, sent me a photo of herself in a mask when the pandemic started. Like, here I am wearing my mask. And I immediately downloaded the picture and did a watercolor of it. And when I was done, I put it up on Facebook, to say, here, I did this watercolor. And she was very excited. But more than that, I got a flood of friends and relatives who said, oh, that's wonderful. Could you do my aunt? Could you do my sister? Could you do my friend? And I realized that there were people that I could honor by doing these watercolors. And so I said, sure. And that turned into over 50 watercolors of individual people that are out there on the lines.
So talk to me a little bit about the process. I know initially, your future daughter-in-law was a huge inspiration, but take me back to the place where you thought to yourself, this is really going to be a larger body of work that I really need to devote my time and my creative space to in order to honor these folks.
Well, I have to say that I started off maybe doing one a day, and then the requests were coming in, so many requests, that I had to paint 4 a day just to keep up. And at that point, I said to myself, I had so many around them. I said, I have enough to put these on display. And if I could find a place to display them, it would help honor them, which of course was another portion of the problem, finding a place that would actually show the works.
So how did you resolve that?
Well, I belong to several artist organizations, and I called several galleries, and I have to say that at least 3 galleries were interested, but couldn't show the work until January. And I felt that that was not what I wanted. I wanted to get them out there right away while this was happening, mainly because when the show is over, I want to give those portraits to the people. And I don't want them to have to wait till February to get them. So I finally found that I called the Division of the Arts, and initially they were booked, but someone dropped out because they're not going to get the exposure that they would normally get. You're not going to have as many people in the building. And so some artists who sort of probably were doing it for different reasons than I would have done it, I was like happy to put it anywhere so that we could actually get them out there and have them be seen.
Now, this exhibition is really gorgeous and really very emotional whenever you look at it, and really kind of puts a face on what it is that many of us, our family members, our friends, our neighbors, people in our community are going through. And you can really see that. Was it difficult, emotionally going through and creating all of this? I know that it must have been difficult for a day. Doesn't seem like a lot, but
well, I have to say that some of the stories were very emotional, and some of them were very uplifting, and they were all very different. They came from all walks of life, all kinds of healthcare workers. And I even got people who were not healthcare workers, but essential workers that said, I know my brother or my sister or so-and-so is not a health worker, but would you do them? Because they have to go out every day in this pandemic. And I said, fine, as long as they're wearing a mask. That was the rule. They have to be wearing a mask. Because I wasn't trying to do beautiful portraits, but trying to show them in their mask. And I still think that their individual personality is in every portrait.
And with those individual personalities, you mentioned there are stories. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Terry a little bit more about some of those stories and the process of painting nearly 50 portraits of pandemic essential workers. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Gerald Chavis, and I'm swinging and bebopping with the 302.
Welcome back. We're talking with Terry Walton about pandemic paintings and exhibition in watercolor. Now, Terry, I know that there are two phases to this, and you mentioned that your future daughter-in-law was the inspiration, kind of the spark for this creative work, if you will. So you do the first phase, but there's a second phase, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I just kind of want to do a little bit of a tease. First phase is essential workers. What's the second phase?
Well, when the second phase is called Hope. I asked the same group of people to give me images that they considered hope, either what's outside your window that gives you hope, or what do you hope to do when all of this is over? And that was the second phase.
Now, we mentioned that all of these pictures, all these portraits have a story. So going to the essential workers, one of the things that I found to be really phenomenal about the exhibit was the expression that you captured, especially in the eyes. You could see that some people were concerned, people were tired. Do you feel like that really came through? I mean, that's what I read, but I mean, how hard was it to get that to come through?
Well, I really did feel that came through. I was so happy with the variety of positions and expressions. I mean, one girl is, giving us the high sign, and someone else looks like they're just devastated after a shift. So there was a wide variety of emotions in these photographs.
Let's talk about the stories. There are a couple in the essential workers that really stand out to you. Tell us some stories.
Well, one of them is one of the first shield paintings that I did, as in beyond a mask, someone that had a shield, was Jenny, who was working in intensive care. And it was kind of shocking after doing about 6 masks to see the full shield with the mask and the paper garment underneath. So she's right on the front lines of the COVID. And then my former neighbor, Maria, sent me a picture of herself in a mask. She's working at AI DuPont Children's Hospital. And the day before I asked for a photograph, they had all gotten essential worker signs to wear around their neck. And so I was able to capture the moment after she gets this sign that she's an essential worker, because she would be working with COVID patients. I did my friend's daughter, Diane, who was in Christiana Hospital, but then later she actually got the COVID and had to be home for nearly 3 weeks, getting tested and retested until she finally could go back to work.
One portrait that really stood out, of course, you had the nurses in the hallway, you had the name badges, you had a wide collection, but one of the people had the mask kind of half off. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, she's actually from one of my high school friends, who's also a Facebook friend. It's a friend of hers, and they live, she lives out west, so she's not even near here. And that's part of the reason why I called it the 5 degrees of separation, because I was amazed at how I could know so many people who knew people on the front lines, which means that everybody out there probably has no idea how many people they know that are at risk every day on our behalf.
Now, I know that you had mentioned that you know a lot of these people, and a lot of people gave you requests. Is this something that you think has kind of had you grow closer to the subject? Are you closer to this subject matter than you would any other art that you would be involved in?
I would say it's been a very unique situation, because I'm involved. It's going to have a long-standing effect, because it's going to capture a moment in my time and a moment in their time. And that is going to be personally historic, if you will.
All right. Now, we mentioned that there are a lot of stories and there are 2 phases to this. When we return, we're going to talk to Terry a little bit about the second phase, and that's called Hope. The 302 will be right back.
I'm Becca, and I love the 302.
Welcome back. We're talking about pandemic paintings with artist Terry Walton, who, Terry, you've done this in 2 different phases. The first phase was healthcare workers, of course, started by your future daughter-in-law, was the inspiration. And then you got all of these people that sent you pictures of themselves in masks. Some were medical workers, others were working on the front lines or essential workers. But at what point did you decide, okay, we need to go beyond this?
When the requests began to get less and less, and also it actually sort of got emotional to do that many of them. And so I really wanted to do something that was more uplifting. And so I said, how about if we take a change of pace and we do pictures of hope. So I asked them to, as I said before, hope that something that's outside your window or something you feel hopeful about. So one of the first ones I got was a bird's nest that had been made on a floral cushion outside her window. And she was kind of amazed, because the bird would not have made the nest there any other time, except everybody was housebound at that time. They weren't even going outside yet. And so the bird made the nest right there under her window on top of a chair. And then I noticed that as the images came in, so many of them were related to nature. It seemed that nature was something that people sought out to make them feel calmer, to make them feel more hopeful. So we had pictures of birds. We had, one of my favorites is called Beach and Boards. And in that one, it shows the ocean and the sun hitting the ocean. We had sunsets, sunrises.
The sunsets and sunrises, I'd have to say, really stuck out. They're really beautifully done.
Thank you.
Beautifully done. But there is one portrait of a man and his dog on the beach. Tell me that story.
Actually, that's my husband and our dog. And we took a walk on the beach. And of course, the beaches are pretty lonely at that point. The beach is not open, so they were pretty lonely. And he's out there walking along with the dog, and I took a photo, and it's completely empty except for them.
Now, you said that the majority of the images for Hope were of nature, and I wanted to circle around to the bird's nest outside being, it's kind of like, a full circle, a cycle of life kind of thing. Very inspirational.
I actually ended up doing 2 bird's nest because someone else sent another one in. I did it late in the show when I was trying to work more loose, and I was trying to just get the idea of something.
Mm-hmm. Now, another common theme, a lot of flowers, a lot of really beautiful, vibrant colors, maybe symbolic of the fact that, we're all in lockdown mode and, there's not a lot of color on the inside, but we can look through the window. Talk to me a little bit about the hope that you saw in the pictures.
Well, I have to say that a lot of people were putting time in their gardens that they weren't able to put there before. And so they were concentrating on the flowers outside. And that's why I think I was getting a lot of flowers. They were like, this is at least something I can dig into that keeps me motivated and keeps me happy in spite of the fact that I'm on lockdown. And so I did get a lot of flowers. I also got an interesting photograph from a former student living in Maine who said, the only hopeful thing I see is this patch of blue sky outside my window. Because at that point, she was still locked in her apartment, pretty much, very little going out. So all she could see was this little tiny patch of blue sky. And she sent me a picture of that. And I thought that was pretty poignant.
Now, you also have a portrait of what looks like a teenager, maybe on a boardwalk, a teenager in a store, and some kids maybe on the boardwalk or somewhere like that. So the kids really seem to play a strong role in all of the exhibit.
Yeah, I would say my favorite is my grandson, who's in a store. He was working in the food store. So he was an essential worker. And I asked him, would he take a picture? And being a teenager, I thought maybe he wouldn't, but he did. And I thought I was able to capture, he was very happy that he felt I captured him and the environment that he was in at the same time.
So what does this exhibition say to your students who are probably, watching from home, hoping that they have a different subject matter, but hoping that they can put together, because it takes a lot of work to do this. What does it say to them?
Well, I think it's something that I've always tried to teach them, stick-to-itiveness. Just keep working. Don't stop working. You'll make mistakes. I can't tell you how many portraits I had to throw away. I had to do over and start again, but you just have to keep at it. That's really the secret to it. And then it helps if you can find something that you can latch a passion onto. You can latch a passion onto something, then you don't mind doing it again and again and again.
Excellent. Now, if someone wants to see these fantastic portraits, how can they see them?
There's 2 ways they can see them. If they hurry, they can go see them at the Division of the Arts in Wilmington, Delaware, from, I think it's 8 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday. But unfortunately, the show ends this Friday. However, we do hope to have it one more time in Newark at a local church on August 22nd. How we're going to make that happen with the pandemic will be tricky, but they can look for it in the newspaper. And lastly, you can look on online. If you go to the Division of the Arts and you go to their Flickr tab, the images are there for them to see.
Excellent. Terry, thank you very much for all of your creativity and your devotion to capturing the faces of essential workers throughout this pandemic.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
And we'll be right back. That'll do it for this episode. I'm Jackie Ferris. Until next time, we'll see you on the 302.